بینندگان عزیز، در فرصتی که پیش اومده گفتگوی داریم با ژنرال وسلی کلارک. ژنرال وسلی کلارک طی سالهای 1997 تا 2000 فرمانده نیروهای ناتو در اروپا بودن. همچنین در سال 2004 کاندیدای ریاست جمهوری آمریکا بودن. ژنرال وسلی کلارک, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your time and your presence with us in our studio. The first question is about your visit to Ashraf 3 and being amongst Mujahideen. How did you experience that?
I think this is my first visit. I'm very impressed with what's been done here at Ashraf 3. The camp looks very functional. It's very clean, looks well constructed, but I'm particularly impressed by the museum and the exhibits that show the cruelty and inhumanity and really the blasphemy of the current government in Tehran. I think the whole world needs to see this, and I hope that many, many more people can come and see this exhibit and actually meet some of the people who survived this horrible experiences.
Yes. I recall April 8, 2011, when Ashraf was attacked by the brutal forces of affiliated to the Iranian regime in Ashraf. And at that time, you remember that 36 people, 36 of Mujahideen were killed and many more were injured. At that time, you said you had experience in wars, especially in Yugoslavia at that time, and you have been facing a lot of scenes, war scenes. But you could say that this was crime against humanity and this was war crime.
For the Iraqi military to attack a camp that was disarmed and kill innocent people, absolutely it's a crime. Should never have happened. So I think that it's a tragedy, but it's a blessing also, because by moving your headquarters and camp away from Iraq and moving it to Albania, it actually adds much more prestige, raises the visibility of what you're doing, and lets many more people appreciate the courage and determination of the Mujahideen Khalq.
You know about the critical situation that the current Iranian regime has created in the whole world, and you know about the opposition. What do you propose?
Well, I think the current situation is that the sanctions have had an impact. I think people are in Iran generally, they're not complaining about the sanctions, they're complaining about the government there. And they recognize they don't really have much choice. It's a vicious government. It tortures and kills people that disagree with it. So if you want to survive, you keep your head down and don't say anything. But this is not good for the people of Iran or the region. The government of Iran has made some very bad choices. I had some personal reservations about the Joint Comprehensive Program of Action when it was first developed. I thought it didn't do enough to restrain Iranian adventurism and the quest for regional hegemony, the Iranian alliance with Bashar Assad, terrorists, so forth. But on the other hand, it did offer a temporary restraint on the nuclear. We always assumed that the Iranians would cheat, but that at least it would be more difficult to cheat with the agreement in place. What you have to have is a positive answer, not just a negative answer. And simply resurrecting the JCPOA, well, we need to do more than that, because during that time that there hasn't been an effect, Iran's moved closer to a nuclear weapon. And more importantly, Iran has cemented a strategic relationship with Russia. NATO, of course, is backing Ukraine, which is in a fight for its very existence against an unprovoked Russian invasion. So Iran seems to be intent on becoming a nuclear power, and it's siding with the wrong people. So I hope the Iranian regime understands that this puts them in greater jeopardy. But I hope the Iranian people would understand that the time for the end of that regime is approaching very quickly.
Some people say that, well, we have to cope with this regime as long as it goes because there is no solution. What do you propose?
Well, I don't think there's going to be an agreement. I just don't think it's in the cards. I think the Iranians themselves are trying to pose as though they want an agreement, but they don't want the original agreement. They want something more favorable to them. Mm-hmm. And they're masquerading this in front of the Europeans. So the Europeans may think that there's some solution here, but I don't see a solution right now. Instead, what I see is Iran, that's decision-making is fractured. They are approaching the point of no return on a nuclear weapon. They have some appreciation of the consequences. Some are pulling for it. Some are concerned about it. And I think that the world deserves a better option than conflict over an Iranian nuclear weapon.
Given the fact that the Iranian people are dealing with this regime, which is brutally suppressed them, you have been visiting the museum, you have seen let's say, agony the Iranian people have been facing with this regime, and what is your message for them?
Well, I think the people of Iran have to show their intent. And I know this is difficult under the weight of the terribly repressive regime.
Exactly.
I know it's a risk, but you know, right here at Ashra 3, you have the names of 120,000 martyrs who have died for their conviction that Iran should be a free, democratic society, a secular society with separation of church and state. And all of this makes sense to me. But, you know, this is not something that some outside group is going to snap their fingers and suddenly the regime is going to go away. So it's only going to be a matter of the people inside Iran who desire a different government and a different form of government to express themselves. It can be done through demonstrations. It can be done other ways. But ultimately, this regime that's in there now will attempt to do whatever is necessary to hang on. It's shown itself to be ruthless, to be barbarous, to use torture as not only a matter of policy, but as an instrument of personal cruelty to family members and as well as the people who are being tortured. So I don't think this regime has any limits on what it can do. The only limiting factor is how long the people of Iran put up with it. And I think that their patience is wearing thin. And I think that the people on the outside in the international environment see the realignment. This is one of those once in 2 or 3 generations periods where what looked like a stable international structure. I think every government that deals with Iran should recognize the extremely repressive character of the government. It's not normal. But what's changed in the past, I would say, year, is that people recognize that this government won't last forever. There will be change. The forces of democracy are too strong. I believe those same democratic forces, the mobilization of ordinary people, their ideas, their determination. In Ukraine, I think that determination sets an example for the whole world. Mm-hmm. Those people in Ukraine are willing to fight and die to stay away from an autocratic Russia that will repress them. The people in Iran didn't have that choice because in 1979-80, it wasn't clear what Khomeini stood for. It's very clear today. And this is one of those windows of history where strong resistance can make a difference.
Iranian people who are watching this interview, what message do you have for them?
Well, I think for the Iranian people is to take heart. There's a lot of us on the outside pulling for you. Have courage and use good judgment, but act.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to have you.